I'm Matt with etrailer. Today we're going to be talking about the Aries AdvantEdge running boards on our 2024 Dodge Durango. Now this can be a great option for a couple reasons. If you're looking for something that's just going to give you more of a clean aesthetic to your vehicle, or if you just need a little more help getting inside, it's going to help you out a lot. But another reason why I like running boards are because they're going to not only gain you access to your vehicle, but also to the top of your roof too. So if you have anything up here like a roof rack, because maybe you're running out of space in your vehicle, you can load up gear up here. And having a running board is just going to make that process of reaching gear a lot simpler to do. What's also important to go along with that is that your running boards have good tread. Now, a lot of the Aries have different styles of tread, and I think all of them work really well. So let's kind of dive a little bit more into what really makes this one stand out. With this tread, it's going to be spread across the entire running board almost. So the only spots that don't have it is going to be at the very ends. Right here, spots that you're typically not going to be stepping on. And what I like about this style is with other styles out there, they might have spots where you have tread at, where you're actually going to be stepping inside your vehicle. But I think this gives it more of a cohesive look to it and just gives you more spots to really step on. And when you look at this, you can tell this looks like a pretty rough surface. When I feel it though, it feels relatively smooth, which would kind of off-put me at first because I didn't think you'd get a whole lot of traction out of that. But when I actually do put my foot on it, it does grab a decent amount. I'm trying to pull my foot on there and it's grabbing more than some other types of running boards I've used in the past. And on top of that, we have this kind of neat pattern. I think this pattern just kind of gives it more of that rugged look like I was saying earlier. And I'm just personally a fan of it. And we can get a few measurements too, just see what it's going to be like to live with. So when you're trying to step on here, it's important to know how much of your foot you can get there. So if I measure just the board itself, this is going to be around 6 inches. And I try to push this out to the furthest point it could because you do have some adjustment to a small degree. But if I go to the furthest point where your foot might hit this, that's going to raise it up to a little bit closer to 6.5 inches. And that's to show you what it's going to look like when you are using it. My foot's right here with the door closed. I can get the whole ball of my foot here. So that's going to be great for me in most uses. If I open up the door, still it's about the same amount, but this allows me to get closer to my vehicle. And on top of that, we can kind of see how much this is saving you. Because like I said, one of the big things about these is going to be just making it a little bit easier to step in your vehicle. Right now, you can see how high I'm stepping. This isn't too bad for me, but if you're someone maybe with some bad knees, that might be a little bit too much for you. So, if you talk about the height, right now that's going to be just around 22 inches of a step. With these boards, this is going to be sitting up almost 12 inches, so about a foot. So that's going to be about saving you half that step, so you can see how this is going to help you out in the long run. And this is going to be made out of a very sturdy aluminum with a black powder coat finish to it. So with all that in mind, it's going to be a little bit more lightweight, easier to work with when you're installing it, and it's going to be less likely of rusting over time, especially with it being outside and all the elements and with any type of road salts too. In my opinion, I think this is a great option for anyone who is looking for more of a cleaner finish. I do like a lot of the Aries running boards. There's another one that I like too. It's going to have little sections where you're going to have more tread at. And that's going to be perfect for if you're looking more for a softer finish. It's going to have rubber sections there. I think that's great if you have kids and you don't want them to get kind of banged up by this if they kind of trip and maybe scuff the knee on something, since it is going to have rounder edges. But if you want something on the other side that's even more aggressive, if you're going off-roading, overlanding a lot, and you want it to really look the part, then I'd actually recommend the ridge steps, because instead of having this type of surface here, it's just going to be extruded metal that has that kind of rough texture to it. And I think it'll just fit that aesthetic a little bit more, but anywhere you go, you can't go wrong with them. Now for the installation, they're all going to install the same way, and if you're curious to see that, just stay tuned, we'll walk you through the process. To start off the installation, I like to lay everything out. So right in front of it, we are going to have all the hardware that's necessary for this. I just like to lay this out just to make sure we have everything, nothing's missing or damaged. And then we're going to have our brackets too. You're going to have 2 sets of these. This is only one set we have right here, but they're all going to have specific points that go on your vehicle. Right here, we're going to have our rear one. Next to that, we're going to have our center one. And in front of that, we're going to have the front one. The way you can tell which one's which, there's going to be an indicator on them. It's going to be a little letter, just like that. It's going to be labeled F, C, and R for which location they go. Then we're going to come over here to our vehicle now, and we're just going to start prepping. And what we need to do is remove some adhesive tabs underneath our vehicle because they're going to be covering up some holes we're going to be using. Now there will be a few under here. You will have some spots marked in your instructions. It's kind of vague. It's roughly going to be placed like this. Now yours might be a little bit different. The best way I find to really figure out how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to the frontmost hole. I'm going to remove that tab, and then there's going to be a series of them underneath. And I'm just going to go with every other tab. So there should be a tab here you remove, leave one, leave one, and then remove one. Now I'm going to show you how to take off one of these tabs. They might be a little bit different for you, but with this series, this is going to be a very thin tab, and I find it's best just to get a flathead screwdriver and stab into the center of it. Just like that. Once it's in the center, then I'm just going to apply force to the side. This should kind of pop out. Just like that. And then you repeat that process on the other 2. And now we're going to grab this little bolt. It's going to be welded onto a plate. And what you're going to do is, where you remove those little plastic tabs or there's adhesive tabs, you're going to place it right there. With that in place, I'm going to take my little plastic retaining clip and slide it on. It's going to be a little bit tricky to do. I'm going to block the camera just for a second. There we go. And it's going to hold in place just like this. This is going to prevent this from pushing through when you put your brackets on. When this is done, then you're going to repeat this process on the other 2 holes. When you're putting your brackets on, they're all going to go in the same way. So you're going to line up that bolt with that hole on top of your bracket just right there. Right now I'm working on the center one. With the other ones, like your rear and front, you're going to have a tab that wraps around the back right here. Starting off with a flat washer, a split washer, and then I'm going to put on my bolt or my nut. Once you have it on there, you'll just kind of keep threading it. Eventually you're going to reach a point where you're going to get a little bit of resistance. That's going to be a good time to stop. Now if you feel like it's just kind of sliding around and it's not going to tighten up, at least a little bit, what you can do is just pull down as you're tightening that nut so that plate doesn't spin around on you. And now I can move over to the other brackets. And for this next part, this is going to be kind of hard to see underneath our vehicle, so I'm going to show you the hardware now. We're going to have our M6 hardware. So that's going to consist of this bolt. You're going to have 2 flat washers on here. One is going to go on first, and then the next one will go on with your split washer, and then your nut. And I'm going to show you that a little bit more in depth now. Now we're going to start using that hardware. So I'm going over to my brackets again, and you're going to find that on your vehicle you have this little hole here. That hole is going to line up with a hole on the side of this bracket. I've already lined mine up, but if yours isn't lined up, you can just simply push it back and forth until it is. That's why you want to leave this a little bit loose when you're starting off with. As you can see, I only have 1 washer on my bolt at the time being, and I'm going to push this through the other side. Just like that. The reason I do it this way is because it's going to be a little bit easier to put my nut into place from the side. Now I'm going to put on my washer and lock nut. We're going to move back over to our bracket now, and you're going to find that you have this hole on your vehicle. It's going to be underneath. This hole should be lined up with the hole on your bracket. If it's not, you can just simply push this over to the side either which way until it is. That's why we didn't tighten this down all the way. Now, I'm going to show you our M6 hardware again. I only have that one washer on it right now because one is going to go on one side of the bracket. I'll try to push that through. With that through, I'm going to put that other washer and that split washer on. Put it on just like that. I'm going to grab our nut and thread that on. Again, we're only going to do this hand tight. There's going to be 2 of these that go on each one of your brackets. And once you're done with that, you repeat that process for the other 2 brackets. Now we're going to grab our running board and the hardware that comes along with it. That hardware is going to be M8 hardware, so that's going to be a bolt, a split washer, a flat washer, and you're going to have a nut that tops it off. The way we're going to install this is we have that running board upside down. You're going to find that there's 2 channels that go all the way down. In those channels, there's going to be these wider sections where the head of that bolt will slide into, and you just push it into place. You're just going to do that with all of them. I recommend removing your washers because those will go on at the very end. And you're just going to install 6 bolts. And what we're trying to do here is just kind of roughly line them up where the brackets are sitting at the moment. We'll be able to adjust this a little bit more after when we lift this into place, which I'll do here in a few seconds. Right about now. I'm just going to lift up. And just place it right here. And of course, those bolts aren't going to be lined up. I'll just kind of fix it up now so they fit into these openings on these brackets. With these bolts lined up in that channel, I'm going to grab that hardware, that's going to be your flat washer and split washer, put those on, hold them into place, grab your nut, and thread that on, hand tight. Try to get this started at least. Once this is on there, you'll be able to just get it hand tight. And we're just going to repeat that on all the other spots. So any spot where you have that bolt poking through in the bottom, you want to do that. There will be a total of 6 of these. And from here, we're just going to make sure this is where you want to be placed. So we're just going to center it up just by sliding this back and forth, just like that. In my opinion, I try to a little bit more forward because I don't want this edge on the back side making contact with the vehicle itself. That's just my personal preference. You can put it wherever you want it to be. Afterwards, then you can tighten everything up. I recommend starting with your brackets. It's going to be pretty tight in there, and then coming over to the actual running board itself. Now, when you're going to tighten up that running board, you're just going to need a 13mm socket and wrench too. And the last step really is just to make sure you torque everything down to the specifications in the instructions, and then repeat this on the other side. After which, I just like to give this a good old test, make sure it's going to feel pretty sturdy when I step on it. Right now, I like the way that feels. And that will complete our look at the installation and some of the features of the Aries running boards on our 2024 Dodge Durango. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.